Alright, so, I've been seeing a lot of discourse relating to some questionable brand logo redesigns, and as a self-absorbed graphic design student, I feel like I have the responsibility to educate the public as to why these logos are actually good and actually make sense. In all seriousness, I just want to give some sort of insight into what companies think when they do these redesigns. Even if I understand where they're coming from, I don't actually think these logos are that good. Like, the new HP logo is absolute ass. So, why are these companies so dead set on potentially ruining their brand image by simplifying them? Well, it really comes down to two things: brand recognition and multifaceted design. The brand recognition one is mostly self explanatory. When you see their logo, companies want you to immediately think of their brand. Everyone knows the McDonald's logo, the bright yellow M on top of a bright red background, making you think of greasy ass food and sugar loaded drinks. Shit's iconic. Another reason as to why it's so iconic is because it's so simple. You only need a millisecond for your brain to be like, yep, that's one hell of a McDonald's logo. Put the new eBay logo next to the old eBay logo, and one of these is definitely more readable than the other. I know it may seem sort of silly about brands wanting these logos to be recognized in milliseconds, but when you put the logo onto something which can only be seen for a split second, like a billboard, you'll want something somebody can recognize in an instant. Multifaceted design is probably a bit more complicated to explain. Logos are everywhere, right? Websites, flyers, condoms, etc. So designers need to design logos that are easy to print onto pretty much anything and everything, which means a lot of simple shapes. Something that won't take a lot of resources to print on like a sticker or something. Resizing is also another thing that designers think about when making a logo. These guys need to look just as good small as they do big. That means shapes that have small points or smaller shapes inside of them are going to look sort of strange if they're shrunk down all the way. You lose a little bit of that information. I feel like one of the decisions to update the Discord logo was to get rid of these small points. And even with the bottom points, which stuck around, they made them a bit wider to look a bit better if it's shrunk down. Have you ever noticed how a lot of brands don't have logos that go beyond like 2 colors? This is so that in scenarios where colors isn't an option, their logo is completely ruined by the lack of them. But to put all the excuses and reasoning aside, like, can I just say that a lot of these logos are kind of bad? Like, going back to the HP logo, maybe in a few years when it becomes the norm it'll be fine enough, but really, I don't think this reads too well. There's also something to be said about more unique logos too. I mean, just look at one of the most recognizable logos in the world, Starbucks. Like, this logo sort of goes against some of what I said before with the smaller shapes inside of it and the more complex look to it. But I feel like the personality in a logo is important, and I'd like to think that's why they've kept it pretty much the same over the years. So, pretty much, like with all things, you can either do a good job or you can do a bad job with logo design. But at the end of the day, I don't think we're stuck in simplified logo hell forever. I definitely think that some of these redesigns are less about making it easier to print and more about how it's just the trend right now. Companies want to look modern, and they'll do a lot to look like it. Ultimately, what we're seeing now are just products of the time, and there's going to be a point in the future where companies are going to want to appease the next big trend, whatever that may be. Hopefully it's not more of this shit, because I swear to God, I'm so tired of this abstract-ass logos. Come on, what the fuck was wrong with the Firefox logo?